Burman!
Hi, this is Ron from POCculture.com. I'm here with Eric Nguyen and Scott Burman, the co-creators of a comic I can't believe I'm about to say, White Savior from Dark Horse Comics. Eric, Scott, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having us.
Doing good, thanks.
Great. I'm excited to chat with you. I can't even believe this comic exists, to be totally honest. Eric, how did it get made? How did you get a comic called White Savior made?
Oh man. Well, if you guys don't know Scott, he's gonna be one of the biggest writers in the industry. He's very funny. He actually a lot of his joke is from what Scott had in mind. He's a jokester between both of us. I mainly did the art and plot and all that stuff, but all the jokes and everything, that's Scott's brilliance there. The way it got made is Scott emailed me out of the blue. I didn't know who he was. He was just kind of trying to break in, sending everyone and anyone all sorts of scripts that he's done in the past. At the time, I was working at Marvel doing, I think either the Weekend's book, Starboy, or it was Old Man Logan. I have no idea anymore. It kind of just overlaps now. But one of those two. And when I finished that, I wanted to take a break, and so I actually took time and read some of the scripts that Scott sent me. And when I read what book was that, Scott? Shoot, I forgot.
How I Got Drunk and Saved the World is the one I sent you.
Yeah, that one. Man, that was so funny. Just the way his characters were set up, and so man, I've done so many type of work before, from dark noir stuff, Batman, X-Men, Old Man Logan, all that stuff. Reading something that had comedy to it, that just felt like that's where I wanted to go. And I kind of wanted to get back into creator-owned work. And it just seemed like I said, I've read so many different scripts. And Scott's script, even though I didn't know who he was, it just felt like someone I wanted to partner up with, because I knew that his stuff can be mainstream. I knew it was funny. What we're missing in comics really is comedy. Everything is so serious. So I gave him a call, and that's how everything started. We joked around about all sorts of stuff. Scott can tell you about how we came up with White Savior. I mean, the white guy coming up with, I don't know, White Savior. I don't know. Whoever came up with that White Savior name, it was perfect.
So the comic is, I have this huge hole right here from heartburn that comes from having a comic out called White Savior. It is, the heartburn just increases on a daily basis. And so I like, by the way, how Eric starts off the story by saying, yeah, this white guy is great. That's how he started the answering the question. It is a very funny relationship that Eric and I have, where we're very kind of protective and wanting to push the other one. And Eric's like, Scott, I got to push on this. I'm like, Eric, push the book. Forget me. I'm not important. Push the dang book. So yeah, Eric was dumb enough to respond to an email of mine, and he read my script and then started brainstorming ideas. And we were watching that movie. It was around the time that movie The Great Wall with Matt Damon came out. And I probably said to Eric, would it be funny if Matt Damon's character was an idiot in this movie? And so we were just kind of going back and forth on it. And the idea came to us. And ever since, it's been just nonstop heartburn, because we realized calling it White Savior, maybe that'll get some attention. Maybe that'll get something going. And hopefully it'll get people to look closer and do a double take. Doesn't always happen, but hopefully it will. And hence the heartburn is the moral of the story right there.
I didn't have a problem with that title at all. I actually love that title. When I heard White Savior, I said that's gonna be the title. I don't care what we draw or what we do with it, but White Savior seemed to be just the right title for it. And I think it was the last time we were talking about, it was the wall that kind of pushed it over, and that's what's like, okay, we got to do this.
I love it. I mean, let me tell you, I don't think anybody who follows me or my site will have any problem with the white savior title. So you can, Scott, you can have a little less heartburn for this conversation. But actually, Scott, tell me a little bit about that. What's been the response? Because obviously, so I should have said off the bat, the white savior, all 4 issues individually are out, and we're talking in advance of the trade paperback release, which is coming out this week. So what's been the response to just overall, but that title specifically? What kind of feedback have you been getting?
Well, it's tricky. We've gotten so much great like feedback from. We have the people. The title, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate the title. Hopefully, you're going to do a double take and learn what the comic's about. It's a spoof of these white savior movies, but we've been getting some great like responses from the Asian American community. They've been huge support there. Like Eric and I were talking to like people at the Asian American Foundation, and we get likes from Amanda Nguyen, like she's Time Magazine's Woman of the Year, and Ronnie Chang has been supporting it, and just so many great people, and so it's been good, and we're still like on the cusp. We feel like it's the goal. My goal ultimately is that everybody knows about White Savior the comic, so that I don't have to explain the title to people and the irony of it. That's the ultimate goal, and so we're close to there. It can be a struggle, obviously, sometimes, because there are definitely people we've talked to who support us, but then they might say things like, "But my agent or my publicist says I shouldn't do it publicly." They're kind of waiting for it to become a more of a universal thing. So it's just a tricky. You gotta find a lot of fine lines that you gotta play around with, but people have really just been enjoying it. We've been just getting so much support out of the woodwork, so it's been fun. It's been, for me, nerve-wracking all the time, but very fun nonetheless.
And Eric, how did it find its home at Dark Horse? Like, what did Dark Horse say about it, and how did you get Dark Horse to agree?
Yeah. Well, that's a great story. I have a great relationship with Dark Horse. I've done so many books with them. I already have another creator-owned book with them called Gigantic with Rick Remender. So I actually, we really didn't intend on going right to Dark Horse, but because we were sending it out to other people, I sent the script. Was it script or first PDF? First PDF to my editor. Was it my editor or who was it? And I can't even get it straight anymore. But it was one of the guys that I know at Dark Horse, most likely my editor. He sent it, and for some reason, it got to Mike Richardson, the head of Dark Horse, and he loved it. He was like, "We got to have this book. You guys got to sign with us for this book." And I met Mike Richardson, and there you go. It landed on Dark Horse.
Yeah, and Scott, how have you enjoyed working with Dark Horse? How have they supported the book, and obviously putting it out in collected volume this week? Like, how have you enjoyed that relationship?
Oh, they've been great. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't get any better. These are the books that I was reading when I was a kid. Were Dark Horse comics. I never thought I'd be sitting in a Zoom call with the CEO or president. I don't know what he is, Mike Richardson, just the coolest guy. Like, you'd have no idea he was in charge of everything, because he's just like kind of a cool, chill, science fiction, superhero loving guy. And so it's just been incredibly awesome all over the place. The fact that, we know that some publishers would be hesitant towards putting something out like this, but the fact that they put it out to begin with, and just all the support we've gotten from them, it's just been phenomenal. Like, yeah, Dark Horse all the way, all day.
I love to hear that, because I could see some, a big company like Dark Horse with quite a reputation in comics. It's not easy to venture into something called White Savior, and that could potentially be obviously controversial. But I'm thrilled to hear them embracing that. So that's great. Now, Eric, there's a lot of inspirations, obviously, for a story like this. You all have talked about Last Samurai, Great Wall. Great Wall almost was a spoof, unintentionally, really. But
unintentionally, right? It was just funny.
Yeah, but tell me more about that. What other kind of either pop culture, movie, book inspirations did you draw from for this book?
Oh man, that's more of a Scott because again, the comedy.
Okay.
Scott is such a film buff, and we just do in pretty much everything. That funny thing is, Scott would think it's over the line, but as soon as he threw it at me, I was like, "We're gonna put this in. We're gonna put this in." And I don't think we pushed it enough, to be honest. I think we could been more, more risky, I guess. But well, maybe they follow up. Maybe the offshoot.
Yeah, it's so it's really funny. Like I'm a huge like film TV buff, and so whenever you see either a bad joke or a very weird and random film TV reference in the comic, that's usually my writing. If it's an intelligent joke or something that actually makes sense, that's probably Eric over there. And so yeah, there were some even like I would talk to Eric about like references while we were writing together, and I'm like, white savior. Oh, hey, maybe we can mention The Blind Side, that which has gotten some flack for being a white savior movie. And Eric hadn't seen the movie. And so I was like, okay, well, this is what happens in it, and this and this and this. And so there's a little Blind Side reference in there. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of put as much as we could in there. And as for the pushing the line, that was really fun with Eric, just because we had a basic outline, and then Eric would draw it, and then we'd come together, and I'd throw out 10 jokes, and Eric would riff on them, and we'd kind of go back and forth. And every time I would say something out loud that was terrible, that I thought was terrible, Eric would be like, yeah, we got to do that. I'm like, no, Eric, we can't. Are you crazy, man? They're gonna murder us. They're gonna come after it. But Eric was just like, let's push it further and further and further. And my nervous self was just popping heartburn pills, omeprazole like nobody's business. And yeah, that's kind of how it went. But it was just been so much fun all over.
Scott, I'm a little worried about your health. I hope you look good,
I am too.
but I hope you're doing okay.
I am too. I don't think I should have stipulated in the contract with Dark Horse. I'm going to need a doctor. I'm going to need really good health insurance for this. But yeah, no, I'm just a nervous, I think, guy by nature.
Well, you're doing great. Again, you look good. So I hope you're doing okay there. I think maybe we're having a little bit of technical issues.
Eric disappeared for a second, so he's leaving the white guy to talk about white savior. Eric,
yeah, sorry about that.
Eric, you okay?
Yeah. I'm driving through an area where the driver just got lost, I guess. Hey, driver, drive correctly, please. I'm on an important phone call. My wife's gonna hate me.
So Eric, I think you never clarified that someone everybody's okay, but there was a car accident, and so now Eric, one of your cars is damaged, so you're having to. It was an unfortunate day for this to happen. You never clarified that. He's not some wealthy CEO who is being driven around by his chauffeur or anything like that. He will be when White Savior takes off, but maybe not there yet.
God, we can't pull that curtain all the way
off. Hey, we
there.
know Kevin Kreider, okay?
All right, I'll edit some of that out, but I'm going to keep some of it too. So you've talked, both of you, about a little bit of what the line is and how hard you wanted to push it. So is there anything that didn't make the final book that you really liked, or you really debated, like, hey, can we keep this joke in, or this scene, anything like that?
We cannot say this. We can't.
Most of the stuff
you can say it. You can say
most of the stuff we definitely don't want to say on the record. That would be a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I'm already a white guy with a comic book out called White Savior. On the record stuff, I should maybe be wary of. But I will say this: we had the original kind of we initially kind of had the idea to do about 7 or 8 issues of this, and Dark Horse typically does 4 issues. And so we cut a lot of stuff out that we realized, okay, now we can have a sequel, much more easier to have a sequel to it. So there's definitely a lot of material on the cutting room floor that we intend on using in the future.
Great. I love that comment, because it's very clear that there are half joking, half serious seeds for, like you said, a spinoff, a sequel. We could do Black and White Savior. we could do a lot of things, and it really centers around.
We have a black savior going.
I would love to see it. I think we may need to add somebody to the creative team on a story like that. But
there you go. Yeah,
without a doubt.
It centers around the core characters, right? Obviously Maggie and Todd, but Neil too. How did that come about in terms of deciding, okay, these are the three main characters for our story that we're going to build with? Were there inspirations from real life people, or how did these characters come about?
Like Eric,
well, Todd is mainly kind of like I relate to Todd. I mean, all joking aside, I guess. I mean, I've experienced a lot of things what Todd experienced, like how I'm supposed to know kung fu and all that stuff, or I'm good at math or stuff like that. And the whole joke about chopsticks versus forks, or just stuff like that. I mean, that's why I found Todd to be so funny, because I mean, I joke about that stuff all the time, and so we definitely had to leave all those kind of on the edge jokes, especially at the end of the first issue, where we talk about what the white savior says and what kind of food he really wants.
There was with Neil. So I think the one thing that got cut the most was a side story with Neil, the character there.
Yeah.
So we put the joke, I think, that you were referencing a little bit with the black and white savior. We put that joke in there to let you know, hey, we've got more of a story for this guy, and we'll probably bring somebody else on board to help tell his story in the future.
I really think that the world is ripe for these types of stories. I really do want has to be a whole storyline with Neil's perspective and his experience. So you've really built this world that is vibrant and ripe for more stories. And I had to, for a moment, when I was reading the book and I saw that little editor's note about Black and White Savior, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, is there a book I didn't read that I need to read? Scott, you talked about you have ideas for like 7 or 8 issues. Like, how much more stories in this world do you think you have?
Well, so I think it's. Oh, Eric, go ahead. Yeah.
No. I just think, just because just from talking to other people who are thinking about taking this to TV, there's so many avenues that we can take them to. I mean, at the end of the whole series, we jump to a kind of like, I don't want, should I spoil it? Kind of like a
spoiler alert.
Like a Back to the Future sort of thing.
If you haven't, yeah,
spoiler alert. Yeah.
So I think,
but there's so many ways we can jump into this.
Yeah, there's 2 different ways we kind of envision it. One is continuing the adventures of our core characters, but we know that there's other white savior stories that me and Eric probably shouldn't be involved in as much, with other different underrepresented people. And so we hope maybe somebody will be able to mine some gold with that, and we'd obviously love to help out with in any way we could. Yeah,
I would love to see it. I think there's a lot of potential. Now, Eric, earlier we all, Scott mentioned that you've been having, big names like Ronnie Chang and the Asian American Foundation giving you support. How does that feel from your perspective? Obviously, Asian American creator, you talked about, you've experienced a lot of what Todd jokes about. Like, how's this experience been for you to be able to tell this story that honestly, even 5 years ago, we probably wouldn't be able to make this book?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting to have people like that kind of enjoy your book, and support the book. I mean, who's oh man, the Good Asian, Pornsak. He was my editor before, and he's just blowing up right now with the Good Asian. And I met him at Comic-Con, and that dude is just so supportive, and he's going through the same thing. His book has exploded, and it's gonna become a series, and we've gotten a wealth of knowledge from him and also support from him. Jeff Yang, he's very well known in the community and has a lot of support and connection. He loves this book. At least, I mean, that's what he tells us. But no, we've had a lot of conversations with Jeff, and he's on board. It's just right now that writer strike and everything. But once it gets resolved, we're hoping that this gets out to more names, more support. That this will become more than just a comic. I'm hoping. I think it has a lot of potential to just expose a lot more types of white savior in different ethnicities, cultures. There's so many ways it can veer off to.
Yeah, I agree. And it's done in such a fun way. Like we've talked, I didn't expect this to be a comedy. I went into it completely blind. And at first it took me a little like orienting myself, like what's happening in this book. But then it's so funny and it really takes off. And so one of the things I had to laugh at, Scott, was there is a very meta joke about the movie that this story could be turned into, starring Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lawrence, and Danny DeVito. which I had a good laugh about. So aside from those three luminaries, if you could dreamcast who would be in the live action starring vehicle for this, who would it be?
So interestingly enough, there's always another story to every question that you ask. One of the reasons why the whole thing takes place in Japan is because when we were doing this, when we first started out, Eric was working for Marvel and he got a job. So we wrote this together. He had to take off for like 6 months or so because he was drawn for Marvel. If it's between Old Man Logan, Wolverine, and Scott Burman, I think he's probably going to go with Old Man Logan. That's probably going to be more successful for him. And so during that time, I was like, okay, well, I got to do something with this. We got to get it going. And so I started emailing some kind of prominent Asian Americans. And we had a Japanese American person who was interested in potentially doing something with it. And I was like, well, we could use your likeness in the comic. And so we kind of shifted it towards a feudal Japan. And then the person just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And so that's just the nature of the business. But we always are like, okay, let's keep it Japanese American. But as we were talking to people like Jeff Yang, for instance, they were saying, and we never want to, they were saying, we always want to say, let's keep it Japanese American. They're like, well, it can be different. You know, it's all going to be dependent on who's interested in doing it. And so there's a lot of names we threw out there, but we want to not specifically name any one person or any one specific ethnicity because, you know, we want to avoid any further headaches that may occur. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people out there, and Eric's going to give a much better answer than me on this one. So go ahead and just name those names, Eric.
I have no idea on names anymore. Honestly, it's like we at first we had names, but then we're like, okay, we didn't want to what was it?
Alienate anybody,
to pigeonhole anything. Yeah, alienate anyone, pigeonhole, because we were, you know, some people would call and say, well, we're thinking about this person, and we can't say no, that's not the right person. So we're just like, yeah, you know, possible, yeah, sure, but who knows? You know, if they find someone and they want that person,
all the better for us.
I don't care personally. Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I Scott, you read my mind because my next question was going to be, I've heard you tell this story about this person who was attached to the book and it didn't work out. I was going to try to, pry that out of you, but well, listen, I'm excited for the potential for this book. Thank you both for taking the time to chat with me. My only request is when this does get made into some story, you have to get Matt Damon. He at least has to be Matt Damon. You're never going to watch this, but if you do, this is the story you've got to be in.
Won't return my calls for some odd reason. I don't know why.
It's got to happen. Hopefully somebody will communicate it to him. For both of you, before I let you go, is there one thing you would want to communicate to somebody who knows nothing about this book that will make them pick it up?
We've got nothing.
Come on.
You should look at this in any way. I'll just say it's got everything you could want in a book. It's got the greatest artist in the history of the world, Eric Nguyen over here. It's a great, funny story. It's got characters you're going to fall in love with. And at the end of the day, it's got a great message. Like a lot of people who do books like this, like you were saying earlier, you were thinking it's going to be very, very serious. And Eric and I oddly aren't that serious people. We know it's a very, very important message that we want to get across, but we always felt like if we do it in a humorous manner, the message is going to come across a lot louder, and it's going to bring a lot more people together. And that's the goal of the book: bring people together through laughter, laughing at kind of the ridiculousness of the past, and having a good time doing it over here.
That's awesome. Eric, I'm going to give you the last word to close us out. What would you like to communicate to audiences to pick up this book?
No, for me, it was just doing another creator-owned book that I wanted to do, that I wanted to have fun with, comedy. I wanted to get back into some sort of fun book. I've been doing too many books, and also as a creator-owned, I wanted to expand myself and just do something I wanted to do. White Savior seems to be perfect. It's a great title, great story, great book, comedy, and just people who I think other people can relate to.
100% agree. I think fans of Back to the Future, fans of Deadpool, who doesn't like those things, I think would love this book.
Yep.
So congratulations to you both. And I look forward to chatting with you when we're talking about the upcoming premiere of White Savior in some live action or animated format.
Thank you, Ron.
All right. Have a great one.
Thanks again. You too.
You too.